That's enough of that crap. Welcome to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio with your hosts, Brad Scott and Woodsy.
G'day everybody, this is Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio and I'm your host for tonight, Brad Scott. It is the 18th of June and we have someone very special tonight on the show. He is a syndicated columnist, author, college journalism instructor, and is a big fan of all things strange. His books about the paranormal include Paranormal Missouri, Show Me Your Monsters, What Lurks Beyond, The Paranormal in Your Backyard, Darkness Walks, The Shadow People Amongst Us, and Haunted Missouri, a ghostly guide to Missouri's most spirited spots. Please welcome to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio, Mr. Jason Offut. Good evening, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
No, it's a big pleasure, Now, mate, I've been following you for some time now, and I love what you've written. I've loved the articles that you put out on your blog. You've been engrossed in this whole subject. I mean, we're talking everything. You're going to the black-eyed children, ghosts, UFOs, time travel, Bigfoot, shadow people, you name it. You have actually got involved in every aspect of the paranormal. Where did this all extend from?
Well, I was a one of those weird kids that whenever at school they'd hand out a book order form. Friends of mine would be ordering books on sports heroes or biographies of presidents, and I was getting books on Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster.
Yep.
It just stemmed back from when I was a kid.
So
I think part of it might have been a desire to find out what was out there. Because when I was a kid, it was during the afternoon. I walked out of my bedroom and into the hallway to get a book off the shelf, and there's a little boy standing in my hall, and I could see the bookshelf through him. And we stared at each other for a little bit until he blinked, and I turned around and walked away. And I think seeing a ghost in my house at an early age probably spurred that.
So you actually saw an apparition from a very early age, and this sort of sparked things off for you in the paranormal. So when did the writing?
Well, I wasn't scared when I saw it, but I saw it, and seeing that I could see through this kid, and the kid was real looking enough that he was staring into my eyes and he blinked. That made me more curious than anything. I wondered what was this? So. I realized there was a lot to the world out there that we don't know about, and I kind of wanted to find out more.
And when did the writing side of things started to take with you? Like, was it early on you're writing stories about it, or it just sort of come later on when you're sort of, you're more matured in your outlook and view on everything? Because the way you write it, it's almost like a story, but it's a real story, if you know what I mean. It's a bit different to what I've read in the past.
Well, yeah, I've gotten that a lot from people that it's the stuff I write is different from a lot of people out there. I've wanted to write ever since I can remember, and I did when I got out of college with a mass communications degree. I was a newspaper reporter for a long time, and after I decided, I've had enough of being at work at Evan and working until 6 or 7 at night. I got a job teaching journalism at a university, and after all those years of covering city council meetings and car wrecks and fires and whatnot, now that I'm a teacher, I've got the time to write about what I want to write about, and that's when it happened. I've only been writing about the paranormal since 2007.
Well, that's still a good few years now. Was there anyone in particular? We'll get onto the subjects in a minute, but like I like to say to people when I interview people, I sort of like to know the nuts and bolts of them first, and actually work out from where they've progressed and started from, because everyone's got their own story to tell. Is it mainly because when you came to that point where you were teaching at the university, and you're taking students on, that now you had this time. Was the paranormal the main thing you wanted to write, or was there just something you sort of came into?
It was one of the things that I wanted to write. My first book is called On Being Bad. It's a book of humor essays. So I've written humor for a long time, and I'm doing a little bit of that now. But it was the paranormal that at the time in 2007 that I really wanted to tackle, because I started collecting stories about ghosts around my home state, and a lot of them were at historic type places, and I realized, this is really cool. I can write a ghost travel book in my home state, and it just all went from there. The book became the bestseller of the publisher. It was a small publisher, but still, I think that's kind of neat. It was the bestseller of that publisher, and I just went from there, and it just kind of snowballed, and once I started writing about the paranormal, I've gotten tons. I've been contacted by hundreds and hundreds of people who experience things they can't explain, and were telling me their story in hopes that maybe we can all find out what this is.
I mean, look, I'm definitely sure, mate, and that's what it's all about. Okay, I guess the next question I'm sure the listeners want to know is, we're going to touch on some subjects that you've actually written about. Oh, before we do that, your books, where can we get them from, mate? Because give us the location and where we can pick up your books from.
It's from my blog. I've got links on my blog to my books. My blog is from the-shadows.blogspot.com. Or they're all available at Amazon.
So people can go to Amazon.com and order your books from there as well. That's brilliant, because that's what I'll be doing. Because I've enjoyed the blog so much and reading what you've done. Now, one of the most spookiest subjects that I can touch on, and not many people, I don't think from the southern hemisphere where I'm from, were actually heard of the black-eyed children. Now, the black-eyed kids is something that is been around for a little while, but it's been pretty much hush-hush, hasn't it? There hasn't been that much written about it. Can you tell the listeners, what are black-eyed children?
Well, black-eyed children are, and all the people that I've talked with who've experienced them have described their behavior, and it's very similar. They're kids anywhere from about 6 or 7 years old to their early 20s. But usually around the 13, 14, 15 range, that will come up to a person, generally never in a public spot. They will knock on your door, the door of your house. They'll knock on the door of your car. They will approach you if you're alone somewhere, and they seem to be polite at first, very well spoken for their age. They have a presence about them that's not indicative of someone who's 14 years old. They seem to be in control of the situation, and what they do is they ask to either come in the house, to use the phone, get a drink of water, or they ask to get in your car for you to take them somewhere. The people who encounter them immediately feel threatened. They immediately feel afraid, and they're really not sure why, because why? It's a kid, and they also feel compelled to say, yes, I'll take you, back to your house. Yes,
back, or let you inside the house too. Now, what makes these kids interesting? The fact that their eyes are totally black.
Right.
There's no pupil, there's no white, there's nothing. They're just totally black. And aren't their clothes sort of bit out of time as well with some instances? Where they're actually...
When the people who describe them, after they refuse, the kids get a little bit more insistent and demanding, and then the people notice that their eyes, like you said, no pupils, no iris, it's just black, like looking into the eyes of a rat, and then the people usually panic, whatever hypnotic type spell they've been under, they felt compelled to obey them. They snap and get out of the situation. But about their clothing, yes, the clothes usually look a little out of date. Black-eyed kids have been reported to, the hair's greasy. they have a smell about them.
Yeah, the
Horribly bad
smell the
breath.
smell is almost like rotting meat, isn't it? That's what I've been reading up on. It's the smell is quite disgusting, isn't it?
Right, especially the breath.
The
The,
breath,
the
yeah.
breath it smelled like decaying meat. Absolutely.
So basically, what happens is that these little tykes, and I'll say it nicely, sort of come up to your front door and they knock on your door and they say, "Let me in, sir. Let me in." It's that type of thing, but they don't say a lot, do they? They just sort of, from what reports have been said, these children who just show up on your doorstep and they rattle the door and that's all they want. They don't give any explanation, but can they come in? Is that correct?
Well, sometimes they ask to come in. Usually they give a reason. There was this phenomenon started from as early as I can find in 1998. A journalist in Texas named Brian Bethel was going to pay his cable bill at a strip mall, and he was sitting in his car, and it was late at night. He was writing out a check to slip in the mail slot of the door of the business, and somebody rapped on his window, and he looked up, and here were these two teenagers asking, we forgot our money for the movie. The movie's about ready to start. Could you take us back to our house?
Mm-hmm.
And he felt like he wanted to open the door, but instead he locked it because he felt this terror, and he looked up and he saw their black eyes, and then they started demanding, "You have to let us in. Take us back to our house." And he started the car, slammed it in reverse, and got out of there. And in this nearly empty parking lot, he looked in his rearview mirror, and nobody was standing there. Kids had just simply disappeared. So sometimes they demand to be let in, but sometimes they also give a reason.
Okay, has there actually been anybody that's actually come forward and that you know of has said, yes, I've let these kids in my house, but we don't know. I don't know.
There's one story that I have that involves letting a black-eyed kid in the house, but I got it from a group of young teenage kids, and I don't know how much validity I put in it. They said they let the teenager with black eyes in their house. He said that he needed a place to go until his mom came home from work, and he just simply sat at the kitchen table and stared at them until he got up and walked out the back door and off the back porch. And the back porch didn't have stairs put in yet, and it was like a 10-foot drop, and they ran out there, and there's no kid to be seen. Well, one of the speculations that I've heard, of course this is all wild speculation, that the black-eyed kids are maybe responsible for young people or people in general being found dead in their homes of natural causes. Who
Oh,
knows?
jeez, that's great to know. Has there been any reports in Australia at all by any chance around the sort of Brisbane area I should be aware about?
About a year ago, I think actually it wasn't in Brisbane. A nurse, and this was actually a case of somebody in a public, or at least people saw it.
Yep.
She was a nurse at a hospital, and this new girl who'd moved from Sydney started working, and she felt uncomfortable around this new girl, and she needed her help at one point one day, and she asked, where's Anne? And somebody said, well, I think I saw her back in this one part of the hospital. So she went and looked for her, and she found her, and she was standing in the middle of a large bathroom. And when the nurse walked in, she saw Anne standing there, and she was staring at her with black eyes. And the nurse felt immediate, just chill run through her body, and felt like she felt threatened, felt like she was going to die right at that point. And this Anne took a step toward her, and the nurse booked the heck out of there, and didn't go back to work for about 3 or 4 days. And when she did finally come back to work, everybody said, well, Anne's been looking for you, and this Anne had moved back to Sydney. But this woman was terrified. And, yeah, it's right there with you.
Oh, fantastic. I'll be checking my windows and doors before I go to bed tonight. Thank you, Jason, for that.
My job.
No, but that's interesting. So there actually been recorded, like an actual recorded case of a black-eyed child in Brisbane. That's amazing. Now, so these headed back to, what did you say? And it was 1998 was the first recorded. Has there been any stories previous to that at all that you know about in America itself or in the UK or any other places that you've come across?
No, not really that I've been able to come across. Although I wrote an article, this has been like 2 years ago now, for Nexus magazine about the black-eyed kid phenomenon. I interviewed people who were, I interviewed a Catholic exorcist. I interviewed an expert in Islam and a few other, from a few other religions, and they said, yeah, this stuff we've heard about people like this before. The Catholic priest, of course, said that they were demonically possessed people. The Islamic expert said that they were jinn. Everybody agreed that you should stay the hell away from them.
So they are saying they are actually of spiritual nature. Then they are something like a demon or something. Would it be a child that's been taken over?
Aspect, absolutely. I also talked to a few people who are convinced that these black-eyed kids are extraterrestrial hybrids. I interviewed a woman who followed one throughout a Toronto, Canada elementary school. She took her son home. I took her son to school late, and she saw a kid wandering around the hall when nobody else was in the hall, and she followed him to try and get him to go back to the office, and he turned around and looked at her, and he had these big almond-shaped, as you hear with the grays, almond-shaped eyes, but they were completely black, and he turned around and scampered off, and she couldn't find him, but she's convinced what she saw was an extraterrestrial hybrid.
Because I've heard both sides of that now, where being in the field myself, and I do a lot of research and I've read a lot, is that they either are of hybrid nature with alien, or they are actually the presence of something more evil. Whether or not, if they're extraterrestrial, they're evil or not, we just don't know. Mate, that's absolutely fascinating stuff on that, especially these black-eyed kids. And what I'd like to do is hear from any Australian listeners at all, or any listeners at all who have had stories on the black-eyed kids. They can get in touch with myself or you. I'm sure.
I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, if you'd like to contact me, you go to the website www.brad-scott.com. Get on the contact page of Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio. If you've got anything you wish me to forward on to Jason, please give it to me. Me and him are in communication, and I'll pass any information on. Is that cool with you, Jason?
Absolutely.
Excellent. We'll work on that one, mate. We'll get some more details through from people and see how we go. Listen, just another subject there. We've gone on to black-eyed kids, and look, they're freaky little buggers by the sounds of it. And like I said, I'm glad to know they're floating around Brisbane here. So yeah, I'm not real excited about that, to be honest with you, Jason. What I also is, you've also written a lot about ghosts and UFOs and time travel and Bigfoot and all the rest, but what I am curious about is more the time travel side of things. Now, this has been debated about for years. There's been a lot of science fiction movies and all different sort of genres have come up. And you remember that thing on YouTube, I think it was about 6 months ago, with a Charlie Chaplin movie, where they see that lady walking past looked like a mobile phone strapped to her ear, and this is when Charlie Chaplin was live, and they didn't have mobile phones back then. It was all over YouTube and stuff like that, and they reckon this woman had time travelled back in the past and was using a mobile phone, which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. What are some of the aspects to people that you've spoken to regarding time travel? What are some things that you have come across?
Well, it's first off, let me touch on the Charlie Chaplin woman. I thought that was pretty fascinating when I saw it, but I immediately didn't think it was a cell phone, because if it was 1931, who the heck was she talking to?
That's right. That's where would they get reception from? Telstra.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't exactly have satellites back then.
Well, see, this is a funny. This is what some people got into, is the fact that say if she was time travel, she was on a mobile phone. Who's to say that the phone wasn't like the Doctor Who thing where they can ring any time frame? I don't know, but this is some of the people that what people are brought up in conversation. If you know what I mean, she had the ability.
The thing is, after some people were researching this video, this film, some people came forth saying, okay, here's a picture of an electronic hearing device from back in the day, and it looked like what she was talking into.
Well, they reckon it was something like to help with hearing, wasn't it? It was like one of those things you put up to your ear to help you hear. Is that right?
Yes,
A lot
exactly.
of those cone things that you see back in the olden days, I guess.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. It was basically an electronic ear trumpet.
Oh, fantastic. No, well, that's cool. So what are these other things that you come across with time travel? Have you actually met anybody within your side of things? I know you research everything you do, mate, and that's the thing. You don't just go out there and make stuff up. You research the crap out of it in a nutshell. Have you in all your travels, have you come up to, has anyone ever come up to you and said, listen, I've experienced time travel before? Or is it just to do with the stories that you've collected over the years?
Well, it's I haven't had anybody unfortunately come up and say that. I have been contacted via email by a couple of people who've told me some stories that they said this happened. I don't know if this guy was a time traveler or not,
Yep.
but this is what happened. And basically the cases were very similar. Where they were, for example, this one guy was in Texas, was just pumping gas, and a large bald man stepped out of the convenience store, and his face was red, and he looked angry, and he was yelling at the guy, what year is this?
Really?
What year is this? And
Yep.
the guy told him what year it was, and the man got furious because he didn't believe that was the right year and stormed off. I mean, was the guy crazy? Or was he
Well,
from a different time? I don't know. It's interesting you bring up the time travel aspect because there is a radio show here in the States called Coast to Coast AM.
yes, I know
Uh,
Coast to Coast is brilliant. It's been around for many, many years. Didn't Art Bell originally have that?
yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And I'm writing an article about a time travel story that originated on there. Actually, I got a quote from Art yesterday. I was that was pretty cool. He got back with me, but he did a story back in 1995 of a
Yeah.
guy named Mike Markham. Uh, what Mike Markham did, he was had gone to electric school in Cincinnati, Ohio, and ended up in this little town called Stanbury, Missouri. Um, I'd heard the show when it first came out in '95 and kind of forgot about it until a few years ago when I realized the town I moved to was less than a half hour away from Stanbury.
Yep.
So I got back into the Mike Markham thing. Well, what he did is he was bored and he built a Jacob's ladder on his kitchen table. And for the listeners who don't know, a Jacob's ladder is two vertical metal poles, and you feed electricity through it, and electric current travels between the vertical poles until it peters out at the top.
Yep.
Dr. Frankenstein used one of these.
Yep.
Anyway, but he built it, and he noticed this weird heat signature that was hovering steadily over the Jacob's ladder, and he couldn't explain it, so he picked up a screw that was on the table and threw it into the hole, and it disappeared for a few seconds, and then reappeared about a foot away from him, just sitting on the table.
Oh,
And that kind of freaked
cool.
him out.
It'd freak anybody out, wouldn't it?
Right, so he kept doing it, the experiment. He kept throwing a screw through, and about 4 or 5 times, and he did exactly the same thing. And he figured, I've just built a time machine. So he immediately wanted to build a big one.
Mm-hmm.
So he and a few buddies stole power line transformers that were sitting on sitting on the ground outside of the power station.
Yep.
And he built a big one in his house. And before he could try it out, he got arrested.
Yep.
Because when he flipped the switch, all the lights in town went out.
It caused a major blackout, didn't it?
Yeah, well, not major. The town was only 1,300 people. But still, it was major for them. And
Yep.
he got arrested for a few months, and then he got on the Art Bell show, and people donated, from all across the country. He got he said $2 to $3 million worth of equipment and $20,000 in cash to continue his experiment. He disappeared in 1998.
Well, that's
Just
right.
vanished. His friends didn't know what happened to him. He had told Art Bell in his second interview that he was just a few days away from trying his machine out, and boom, he disappeared. And the article that I'm writing right now, I found him. And he says that his machine took him 2 years into the future.
So you actually found him.
Yes, I was actually able to dig him up.
So he actually went 2 years into the future
Yep,
through
he
using
said
this
that,
new machine that he built. That's incredible.
He built this. Yeah, he built the machine. He jumped in, and the next thing he knew, he was laying in a farm field in Ohio, and it was the year 2000.
Oh, but these are stories you just don't hear about. If you know what I mean, did he also? Because we live so far away, I don't know. News travels slow sometimes. So he actually built this thing in his house.
Okay, yeah, he was working on it in his house when he got arrested. But one of the donations was free warehouse space in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, okay,
And so
cool.
he moved there and basically lived in the warehouse, and with all the equipment that was donated to him, he was able to build this large machine.
Mm.
And then he when he when he woke up in the field, it was March, so he was pretty cold. He had no idea where he was. He said his memory was completely blanked out for a while, and he wound up in a homeless shelter until his memory got back. And when he finally regained his memory, he went back to Kansas City, and he was gone for 2 years. So the warehouse was empty. All of his notes, all of his videos, everything was gone.
Everything was gone.
He can't remember the names of anybody who helped him out.
Wow.
Amnesia, still blacked out a few parts.
So the old time travel does sort of mess you up a bit, I guess. If that's the case, you want to sort of know where you are and who you are when it happens, don't you?
Well, he said he was working with about 3 million volts, so I'm saying, yeah, that
3 million volts.
That's a problem.
God, lucky he didn't get fried. He probably did. No, that's really curious. So this guy built this time machine in a barn, in a shed. So you have to excuse the Aussie terms, mate. Built a shed or warehouse. And then he disappears for 2 years. Now, where did you find him? Back in his home, back in his house, or was like a police report on him for missing persons, or what was the go? How did they?
Well, I asked about this guy. After he just worked odd jobs, basically for cash. He really didn't have any steady employment ever. So he said that he'd never had any problems with the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. That's one of the first questions I asked him. If you were gone for 2 years, how come the tax man didn't hunt you down when you reappeared again?
Well, that's right.
But he said he was at one point wanting to check and see if a missing persons report had been filed on him, but since he had been arrested back in 1995 and he disappeared in 1998, he was still on probation, and he hadn't seen his probation officer for 2 years. Because he jumped from 98 to 2000.
So did they end up throwing him in the clink for a while because he disappeared on his probation, or he just sort of laid very, very low, so to speak? So
he just laid extremely low, and I was able to find him via the internet.
Oh, goodness me. Well, mate, like I said, that's a good journalist, if you know what I mean. Not many people can claim that to fame. To actually track someone down after 2 years of being missing. So basically for 2 years, after he went from this journey into the future, he basically had to remain very, very quiet about it. Did he say anything that the government, we talked about the Men in Black and all the rest of it, do you reckon they would have caught on to it and taken all his gear and all the rest of it, or do you reckon people just would have pilfered it all?
He thinks that the person who was loaning him the warehouse figured that he tried to use it and was killed.
Right.
And just absolutely fried.
Nothing
maybe
left.
He just figures they dismantled the machine, sold whatever parts they could.
Cool, because we've heard the old stories about the Men in Black. They sort of like sort of things like that. And, you read all the books and I'm not talking about the TV series for people who are interested. This is more to do with the government conspiracy theories and all that. But that's for another show. Now, so we've touched on the time travel and that. Is there any been other major cases that you've come across with time travel? Because I've always found this very interesting. Is that we've seen a lot of good movies out there, and there's a lot of remakes of movies with time travel and stuff like that. In your opinion, after speaking to this guy, does he believe what he's done 110%? Is he actually that convinced he ended up in the future?
Yes, absolutely he is. And being a journalist for so long and being a parent, I have a pretty good BS detector, I think. At least I hope I do when my kids are teenagers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can usually tell if somebody is nuts or lying to me, and this guy is extremely sincere. He's certain he did what he did.
Excellent. Well, we're going to go for a quick ad break right now. I have Jason Offut joining me all the way from Missouri. And we're going to take a quick ad now, Jason, and we'll be back after these short messages. Are you looking for a professional writer who deals with bid management and document production services? Then you need to contact Chris Childers. Chris Childers is a professional tender writer with over 10 years experience, working in such industries as diverse as civil construction, recruitment, insurance, development aid, IT&T, and the public sector. TenderWrite offers a specialist client-focused service, producing professional and high-quality professional bids, tenders and proposals for a wide range of clients. So contact TenderWrite today on 07 3482 2792 or email chris.childers@tenderwrite.com.au.
Master, the villagers, they're revolting, they're at the gate.
Why is that, Igor?
It's because your website is just so crappy, Master. They just don't like it.
Oh, Igor, what do we do?
Oh, that's easy, Master. We contact Key Designs Media Studio. They do web, print, video, and new media, Master.
Quick, Igor, what is that number?
07 3122 4612 or email info@keydesigns.com.au. That's Key Designs with a Z.
And we are back. I'm your host, Brad Scott, and you are listening to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio. And tonight we have Jason Offut with us, who is a fantastic writer and it touches on all subjects to do with the paranormal. Now, Jason, before we went to break, we're talking a bit about the time travel side of it, mate. Was there anything else you wanted to get into with that, or any other subjects that you personally wish to touch on?
Well, on the time travel, yes, I had, a few years ago, a couple of the other professors at the university where I teach, we were talking one day about time travel, and I brought up a man named Stephen Gibbs, who lives in Kansas, which is the state right to the west of Missouri, and he has, since the 90s, been selling a time machine on the internet. And
really? A time machine on the internet? Is this on eBay, or is it his own?
His story is that back in the 90s, he was contacted via the U.S. Postal Service by himself from a different dimension, and he gave himself plans to build a time machine.
Awesome.
And he built this time machine, and it worked, and he's been selling it to people ever since. And we decided, this would be great. I was teaching a one-time offering at the university called Paranormal Journalism, which the class went off very well. But I would use the machine as part of a lecture tool, and they would take it apart and write a paper on it. And we got the machine, and we tried it out. Again, this Gibbs has been making a lot of money over the years selling these things, and I went through his description on how to use it.
Yep.
It takes 3 minutes for the time effect to happen.
Yep.
And I sit there and used it for 3 minutes, and I did go in the future 3 minutes. It didn't work. But if you've seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite...
Oh, I definitely love that movie. It's absolutely a crack up.
Time Machine.
Oh, is that the one? Oh,
That's
we
where they
buggered.
got the time machine. Is from Stephen Gibbs.
Oh, we buggered. That's it. Oh, cool. So, look, for people who don't know what it is, if you go and watch Napoleon Dynamite, brilliant movie. They actually do have a time machine in that. So, you bought this, you're saying you and the others, couple of the teachers, they bought this time machine, and you're a bit let down by it, mate. Did you get your money back?
But it is kind of cool to tell people, hey, I own a time machine.
Oh, that's really cool, mate. It's not those, I was going to say, it wasn't the big ones you sat in, the wheel spun around you behind you. But yeah, so you got this time machine, didn't work. Next question is, did you get your money back? Or you just kept it as a bit of a tool for research and that?
Oh, we kept it.
It's a novelty
thing.
thing.
Process of, going through it and taking it apart bit by bit. And I think it'll make a great paperweight.
Oh, look, I think that's awesome. I think I'm going to have to try and track myself one of those as well. That'd be fantastic. Look, mate, during the ad break, we're having a bit of chat before. You're saying that just flipping back, and this is what the show is about. We jump all over the place at times. Is that you're saying there was another thing to do with the black-eyed kids? What subject was that on, mate? What were you talking about there?
Well, I had being a journalist, I can't just take a story, especially when I'm writing about the entire phenomenon.
Yep.
So I told you I went into the religious aspects, and I also went into the physical aspects. Are there medical conditions that cause the pupils to become huge? And there are a couple of medical conditions where people are born without irises, or they're born with huge pupils and very little iris, but it doesn't cover the entire eye. There also, I cover the pharmacological aspect, and there are drugs, legal and illegal, that blow the pupil up. But again, it doesn't cover the entire eye, because that's a lot of people have poo-pooed this, saying it was just some crackhead.
Well, the thing is, there is actually like people, and I saw this online the other night when I was doing some research. There are people that are actually injecting like the stuff into the eye that changes the white's color. You have blue and green and red and black. So there's actually people out there now that are actually injecting their eyeball with a dye, which is very dangerous to do, mind you. It's not something I'd really want to be into, but they get in all these weird and wonderful colours, and the colours stay there for months till it slowly starts to fade away and goes back to white again.
Well, and yes, and there are also contact lenses.
Of course,
that you can
which
buy
is less painful.
that cover the front of the eye. I mean,
Yep.
they're used in vampire movies all the time.
Yep.
And I researched those aspects of it as well. And although those two might be able to explain, some people hoaxing, they're expensive. Both of those aspects, injecting the dye and getting contact lenses are expensive. And if you have a 6-year-old child knocking on your door, who turns out to be a black-eyed kid, really is a 6-year-old kid gonna have injected their eye, or are they wearing those
black contact lenses?
Yeah,
Actually,
it's
I
not
wouldn't
gonna
mind
happen for everybody.
I wouldn't mind a set of those black contact lenses myself, mate, just to walk around the streets and see what response I get.
I interviewed a guy who bought a pair. They're like $300 for each eye.
Oh, well, that's out of my budget. I'd make a squeam.
The thing he said is they were worth it for a little while, but they kept popping out, and they were very uncomfortable to wear and painful to put in. And he doesn't really wear them. But he said the satisfaction of scaring the crap out of people was fun that one day.
Well, it makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? I mean, just scare the crap out of people is great fun in itself. Now, because we notice in Australia here, look, Halloween, different subject here, just going scaring people. I mean, Halloween has just started to come into Australia here. It is an Americanised holiday, of course, we know that. But like, Halloween's been around for eons, around of course, in the States and stuff, in Mexico and all the rest of it. And Australia's just starting to go through it now. I noticed in my street itself, last year was the first time that I've actually seen kids walk up and down the street, and actually there was houses that were participating. A lot of houses still don't, but that's just getting off subject a bit. Just talking about scaring the crap out of people. Now, the main subjects, I guess, has always been with the paranormal is what people believe and what they've experienced. Have you personally, Jason, experienced anything that's out of the norm for you? Besides, you said you saw that young kid when you were a kid yourself in your later years, if you know what I mean. Has anything really popped to mind with you?
No, well, a few minor things. Only one. I mean, cold spots when I've been investigating haunted places that have not. I walked into one, the other one walked into me, and in both cases I was in an abandoned house and no air conditioning, and it was in a 90-degree temperature, and I was sweating buckets, and all of a sudden I get hit with this cold spot, and sweat completely dries up, and because it's like 30 degrees lower in temperature than what it should be. I don't know if those can be explained away. Maybe so. The only thing I can't really explain was about 10 years ago. I was playing cards with a few friends. There were 4 of us. We're playing cards in our buddy's basement, and it was a new house, and the basement was unfinished, and there wasn't anything in the basement other than a beer fridge, a table, and chairs. And we were sitting there playing cards, and a woman's voice from the far corner of the basement said Victor, which was the name of the guy who owned the house. And all of us just stopped what we were doing and just stared at each other, and we'd all heard the voice. We finished the hand, and the three of us left Victor there at home alone, but we weren't going to stay anymore. That's one thing that happened that I really can't explain.
Do you have, like, when you go and do investigating and stuff like that, because I know that's part of a lot of what you do and what your research is. Now, one thing I do know that you've written a lot on is about the shadow people, if you know what I mean. It's that,
Right.
That's basically Darkness Walks. That's in one of your books, where you
Right.
actually delve into shadow people. Now, I've personally only ever had the experience a few times, and look, I've been investigating for a long, long time here in Australia and overseas in New Zealand, but the amount of to see a shadow person, honestly, the first time I saw something like that, it freaked the absolute crap out of me, because whatever it was, it blocked the light that was coming through. It was a full-figured person, very tall, very broad. Have you experienced these things yourself on investigations, Jason? That you've written about it a lot, especially in this fantastic book, Darkness Walks. And I'd love the listeners to hear an author's viewpoint on this.
Well, the thing about the shadow people, the thing that got me interested is I grew up in a farmhouse. We were 6 miles away from the nearest town. We were more than a mile away from our nearest neighbor. We lived on a very lonely stretch of highway that ended about a half mile away from the house. So we were out in the middle of nowhere, and we kept our window blinds open all the time because there was no need really to close them. And at night, when there was a full moon, or just any type of a moon, I could see everything in my room.
Yep.
I could see my bookshelf. I could see my desk, my Farrah Fawcett poster on the wall.
Oh, Farrah Fawcett, yeah, I had one of those too when I was a young bloke.
And so I could see all of this at night. And one night, I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. I saw out of the corner of the room a man walk out of the wall, and he was completely black. I was laying down, and I was a little kid, but I know he was huge. He, 6, 7 foot tall, and he just looked like shaped like a man, but there was no light. He was just blacker than the night around him. Walked by my bed about a foot away from where I was laying and into the hallway. And it scared the hell out of me, and I screamed for my parents. They turned the lights on, and there was, of course, nothing there. And this happened intermittently for about 6 months or more. And it wasn't just one. Sometimes there was a parade of 9 or 10 that just walked by my bed into the hallway.
Were they going through the same spot each time? Like, were they following the same path? So they're coming out of the same area and going to the same... Do you reckon it would have been... Now, we've talked about, with people who investigate the paranormal and ghosts and that, we talk about the different style of haunts. Whether it's residual, whether it's intelligent. Was this... With shadow people, do you think there is intelligence there? Because, like, when I saw it, when I saw my first one, I swear the thing was looking back at me. Even though you couldn't see any facial features or anything, but you just got that gut feeling it was staring right at you or through you, if you know what I mean.
Right. There's a whole lot of reports like both of ours. Mine, I labeled my shadow people that I saw benign shadow people. Not that they are benign, but they didn't pay any attention to me. And a lot of people have reported this, seeing shadow people that were just traveling. They were going from point A to point B, and we just happened to see them. A lot more reports, however, are like what you got is, the shadow person staring at them. A lot of people have reported, having a shadow person looming over their bed when they wake up, or peering at them from an open doorway. And this isn't always at night. I mean, people have had daylight sightings.
Oh, that's right. And people have actually caught them on photo too. This is the thing. Like, you see a lot of photos. See, because we're talking about orbs and stuff like this, but when you take a picture of orb, we know it orbs dust and stuff like that. But when you take a photo in the middle of the day, and there's a shadow figure standing there at a doorway or against a wall, and there's no way of light, it actually blocks light, like sunlight. and this is before, and I've seen photos of stuff that's before the digital camera, if you know, and before you can sort of manipulate too much with the technology we have nowadays. So, being residual or being a solid mass, do you think the mass is like, are they an older spirit that's actually unable to form? And this is where I'm going with this long drawn out explanation. Is this, can have they achieved such a state where they have formed themselves as a solid figure, but they can dissipate just as quick, or are they actually something totally different again?
My answer is all of the above and more. From the behaviors that I've gotten from different types of shadow people, encounters, and I've gotten reports from all across the United States, Canada, Brazil, Great Britain, France, Portugal, South Africa, and Australia. All this is a phenomenon all over the world.
Yep.
Many of the cases are similar to each other, but they're not all connected. There are a lot of shadow people reports that I've gotten. To me, I'm convinced that they're a residual spirit. They're a ghost, because they'll do the same thing every night. So somebody will be sitting in their armchair, and they'll see this shadow person walk down the steps and into the kitchen.
Yep.
Okay, if this happens every night, that sounds like a residual haunting to me. The shadow people that I encountered and others encounter that seem like they're just going from point A to point B, they could just, maybe we're getting a glimpse into another dimension, and that's all that we can see is this black shape. Other types, people feel like they're being spied on, and then they look over and they see the shadow person, and when the shadow person notices them, it vanishes, it scampers away. Is this what is this? It could be an extraterrestrial, it could be some interdimensional traveler, it could be something that's curious about humans. Mm-hmm. And then there are the cases. A lot of times, these shadow people wear hats or have glowing red eyes that people see, and they're immediately, of course, terrified, and they feel that these entities are feeding off of their fear.
Yep.
Are these things demonic? I talked again, like I did with the black-eyed kids. I talked with religious leaders who all, from even Buddhism. The Buddhism, the guy I spoke with said, "Yeah, we've got these figures in our, in our." On our belief system, but we don't talk about them. We prefer to think about good things. But every major religion has this type of figure in it, and it's always demonic. It's always bad. So I think that the shadow people are, in different cases, all of these things.
So they're pretty much good, bad, or indifferent.
Go ahead.
So they could be good, bad, or indifferent at the same time.
Well, I'm equating indifferent with good, because they're not scaring the pants off of me.
No. Well, mind you, they still give me the willies occasionally.
Well, the thing that one of the more terrifying things is the physical contact. Because there, been people who've been scratched by them, gotten bruised by them. The most terrifying case was out of Sydney, Australia. A woman contacted me who was attacked one night. She and her roommate were in their apartment, and she woke up and she saw a shadow person looming over her roommate's bed. And when the shadow person realized that she could see the shadow person, it climbed on top of her and began to rape her, and she could feel this, and she couldn't find her voice, and eventually, when she finally found her voice and she started screaming, the thing just dissipated.
I've heard stories pretty much like that, where, I mean, this is not a good subject at all for especially for women, but it also happens to blokes as well, that these entities can actually perform these acts, if you know what I mean. That it can actually, I've had people tell me the same thing. I get a lot of messages sent to me about attacks and stuff like that to do with the paranormal, and a lot of the time it is the shadow people side of it. You know what I mean? Because they can't see them. They can feel their presence. They know there's a black mass. But I've even had reports that are given into me that they've actually felt breath. If you know what I mean, they actually felt the breath on them as well.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's quite an unnerving subject when you think about it, where you have no physical control. Like, fine if someone breaks into your house, I mean, you can do something about it at the end of the day. You know what I mean? If you can,
Right.
you can take matters in your own hands. In that sense, I'm not recommending that to anybody. I'm just using this as a point of reference. But when you've got something of a supernatural, paranormal nature that can get into your house and do these things, I mean, who do you turn to? Yeah, who do you turn for help besides the clergy and stuff like that? I mean, this is where it comes down to, folks out there that are listening to this. It's a bit off-putting, I know, but this is what it's all about, is touching on these subjects, and so people are aware that these stuff does actually go on, whether they think it or not.
Well, and the thing about the shadow people, it's not like you've got a residual ghost. It's not like you have something that's, kind of either trapped or hanging around your house that, somebody in the clergy can come and get rid of. The shadow people, you might see one in your life. You might see it occasionally. I've interviewed people who've had a shadow person follow them. I talked with a woman whose husband was dying of cancer. He had like stage 4 lung cancer. And he would see these shadow people standing over his bed watching and waiting for him to die is what he felt, but nobody else could see them, which is another aspect of shadow people. A lot of times someone will see them and somebody nearby dies shortly after. The American Indians, Cheyenne, I don't remember which tribe, has that's part of their legend that, they see a shadow person and they know somebody's going to die. It's an omen. Yep. Well, anyway, this woman whose husband was dying of cancer and could see shadow people, he asked, it was very soon before he was going to die, asked to go on this trip with his wife, and they ended up driving 150 miles, even though she didn't want to because he was so ill.
Yep.
But they stayed the night at a motel, and he was really upset because he was trying to escape the shadow people. Before he died, but they followed him to that hotel room, and she was a minister's daughter, and just really got down and prayed with him to try and get the shadow people to leave. And she said the last thing he did was smile and say they're gone, and then he died.
Then he passed away.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That's unreal, isn't it? So they can be. The shadow people, from what I've read and stuff, Jason, have been around since books have been written, if you know what I mean, and stories have been told. Each culture has a different name for them or a different word for them. They're not as new as some people think they are. They've been around for a long time, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. And they've been around actually for thousands of years.
Yes,
at least.
That's right.
Talking again with people in various religions. I mean, Christianity and Islam have been around for thousands of years, and if it's been around that long, it's probably been around longer. The oldest story I could find in literature was in the 1800s. The oldest one that I could find in any other type of media was in the 1940s on a radio play in the United States. It was a mystery show. And then the name of the episode that I listened to was called The Shadow People, and they described a shadow person, and that's what they called it. So yeah, it's been around, maybe not as much in the media as other things, yep. but it's in there.
But I think what it is, the people who watch the TV shows are like Ghost Hunters and Paranormal State, guys from Ghost Adventures and Most Haunted. These are the shows that actually brought shadow figures to the general population, if you know what I mean. They're the ones that do say, oh, look, we caught a shadow person on our camera or something like that. So, the guys have done good in a lot of aspects as well, where it has opened up people's eyes to different things and different ideas of what the paranormal could be about. And if you only really knew about the shadow people and that side, and like Black Eyed Kids and all the other stuff that was sort of talked about as a slightly off topic, is that there are different aspects to the paranormal that we haven't even scratched the surface on. Now, we haven't even gone into other cultural differences and cultural beliefs and what Indigenous Australians believe and what the Maoris believe and what the North American Indians believe. And it just goes on, doesn't it, mate? It's such a broad subject. Listen, while we're here, we've got about another 7 minutes to go. I just want to plug your books for you again, mate, because they are a fantastic read. So, folks, do yourself a favour. Jump on Amazon.com. Look up Jason Offut and you will find his books including Paranormal Missouri, What Lurks Beyond, Darkness Walks, what we just talked about then regarding the shadow people. That is absolutely magic, and Haunted Missouri. So is there any other books in the pipeline for you there, Jason, on the paranormal, mate, that you can sort of give us a clue on?
On the paranormal aspect, I'm about halfway finished with the book. I haven't really hammered the title out, but it's about entities that appear human, but definitely aren't.
Really?
You know, it's anything from people who just tear. This is the one that I'm really fascinated with. People that just exude, fear. I mean, people have no real reason to be terrified of this person that they just met, but they are. That and I'll touch on black-eyed kids. There's an entity called the Harlequin that I touched on my blog, and if people want to go back and look at that, that's pretty terrifying. But that's the thing. It probably won't be out for another year, however.
No, that's right. Did you want to give your website another rap, mate, while we're here? Because we've only got another 5 minutes to go now. So, like I said, folks, check out Jason Offut. Check out his books. Mate, what's your website?
It's a really clunky URL. It's shadows.blogspot.com.
Well, what I'll do is I'll also put a link on Naked Zombie for you under this radio show tonight, so people can go straight to your website as well, Jason. Because seriously, folks, finding a very, very talented and a writer who has put so much time and effort in what he does, you sort of remind me a bit of a young Hans Holzer there, mate, with what the subjects you go into. So, I mean, I'd take that as a compliment. That seriously was.
That's high praise. I heard Brad Steiger referred to me as a young him once, and I'm like, I don't need that pressure.
No. But we'll talk about Hans Holzer on that another day. Look, Jason, just quickly, 4 minutes ago, mate, is there any other thing you list to fill into us quickly about? So you got another book coming out. You can get your books on Amazon.com and via your website. And I just want to touch on quickly was one more thing was now we're going to get you back. All right, if you're happy to come back, we'd love to have you back on the show, and we're going to talk more about the UFOs and the Bigfoot. Have you got a quick UFO story for us, mate?
A quick one. There was a guy in the late 1960s. I did a book, What Lurks Beyond. I found all of the paranormal things I could find within a 100-mile radius of my house.
Good
showing
stuff.
that if all this stuff happened near me, it could happen near you too.
Yep.
One of the cases in there was from Ashland, Nebraska. A guy named Herb Shermer
Yep.
was a police officer and came upon during a late night patrol what he thought was an overturned truck. And when he got there, it was a sphere hovering 6 feet off the ground, and some humans were in strange uniforms were standing around. And when he pulled up, he completely lost memory. He filed a report on this, even though an older police officer said you don't want to file a report on UFOs; it'll ruin your life.
Yep. And
he did anyway, and it ruined his life.
I mean, that's the thing, though, isn't a lot of hierarchying people, like you're talking about police officers, Air Force pilots, all this other side of it. I mean, even astronauts have made topic points about UFOs probably do exist. If you know what I mean. Look, I'm a firm believer, and this is my viewpoint of it. Out of our entire galaxy and universe upon universe, I mean, honestly, people probably disagree with me on this, but how could we be it? How could we be the only functioning humanoid civilization in the entire cosmos? You know what I mean? Whether or not...
Oh, absolutely. And 600-700 years ago, we'd be burned at the stake for saying that. But no, I agree completely. The numbers don't add
Yep.
And one of the trends in ufology right now is saying it's got to be something else other than nuts and bolts craft coming, from a different solar system, because we can't do that. And that really annoys me because we can't do that yet. Doesn't mean
That's
somebody
right.
else can't do that.
Well, how many years ago did we fly to the moon? What?
It was July 22nd, 1969.
That's what I was saying. It wasn't that long ago, was it? I mean, and we've gone in leaps and bounds from there, and we're already circling, with Richard Branson and his bloody his plane that goes up into the stratosphere and comes down again in a single flight. You know what I mean? So the technology is there. Whether or not I'll be around in my lifetime, I don't know. If we ever actually do experience visitors or not. But anyway, look, Jason, I'd just like to personally thank you, and in behalf of our listeners as well on Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio, for spending an hour with us tonight and to talk about all aspects. And mate, we'd love to get you back on. So folks, if you take the time, please check out Jason Offut's books. You'll have the link on Naked Zombie when you go. You'll see a little link on there tonight. And mate, just thank you again for taking the time to speak to us here in Australia.
Hey, I had an absolutely great time. I would love to come back anytime you want to have me. We just barely scratched the surface here and didn't talk about Bigfoot once.
No,
so I'd like to come back and talk about that.
Mate, we will definitely get you back, and that's not a problem. So I'd just like to thank all my listeners tonight. My name is Brad Scott, and you have been listening to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio. Have a good night and a safe night, and I'll be speaking to you all real soon.